Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Sole Drop, and this is my performance review of the New Balance Fresh Foam BB V2. So of course this is the new version, the second version of the Fresh Foam BB, which is kind of like New Balance's new hoop shoe, right? And this shoe is actually quite expensive. Well, it's not expensive, but it is expensive for kind of like their shoes. Where's the most expensive shoe that they have besides the Kawhis, right? So of course they have the Hezi Lows, which is 110 bucks, and then the Two-Way V4, which is amazing, for 120 bucks, and then the Fresh Foam BB V2 is $130. So if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. If you guys do choose to get this shoe and use my affiliate link, it does help me out. So thank you guys for the support as always. So again, links will be in the description box, or I guess underneath the video with like the products. But let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, and we have this kind of like light brown color for this outsole color, right? And also we have these like hexagonal kind of like shapes. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting outsole pattern, right? And also it is kind of decoupled, right? The forefoot and heel is separated. But how is the traction? The traction is kind of weird, right? It reminds me a lot of the Jordan 31, right? So first of all, when you first get this shoe, it's pretty dang nice. You don't really have to break it in, you know what I mean? It does get a little bit better once you keep playing in it, but pretty much right out the box, it is really good, right? But one thing that I did notice is that going forward, it slides a good amount, just like in the Jordan 31. It's not as bad as the Jordan 31, but it does slide, right? And just if you guys couldn't notice, it's a very, very loud squeak. This shoe has a really loud, high-pitched squeak, which I do like, of course. That has nothing to do with performance, of course, but I feel like a lot of people like it, just like me. So loud squeak, that's good. But when you're going forward, no matter how clean the court is, it does slide a little bit, which is weird, you know what I mean? But going laterally, right, going side to side or like 45-degree angle, I didn't really have any issues, right? It was a really, really good bite going this way, but going forward, I felt it sliding a little bit, right? Even in slow motion, it does slide like a couple inches. So just be careful with that, I guess, right? That's something that I didn't really like all too much. Of course, you want most of your stops going this way to be good, but also going forward, you know, when you're doing like jump shots, you kind of go like this and then you jump, right? But when you're doing a jump shot, you don't want to slide out a little bit, which I did feel. So just be careful with that. That's something I definitely didn't really like. But if you're playing on a clean court, you're gonna have really good stops going lateral movements, right, side to side. And if you're playing on a dirty court, it does pick up dust. It is affected by dust a little bit though. It kind of sucks, you know what I mean? Like if you let a little bit too much dust build up here on the outsole, it does slide out a little dangerously, just like in the Jordan 31 as well. So I'm thinking it's probably due to the rubber compound. Whatever rubber compound they're using for this shoe, it's not very nice, you know what I mean? It is an easy wipe, however, so if you do keep up with your wipes, you should be good to go, but just be careful because it is a little bit dangerous. And as far as outdoor use, you should be fine. The rubber is pretty hard. You do have a lot of grooves, right? And also the grooves are a little bit closer together, so you should be fine on the outdoor court. It feels like it'll be good. However, on a like indoor court, it wasn't the best for traction for me. It definitely was not my favorite, so that definitely is a bummer, right? But of course, it's not terrible, but it's not great, right? Especially comparing it to some of the shoes I really love playing in right now, like the AE1, the Fission 9 even was really, really nice, even though it did perform kind of similarly to this shoe, but to a lot lesser of a degree. Of course, like the Kobe Pro Tro, you know. But anyways, there's that. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, extremely smooth and very, very soft, right? So here in the heel, look at this. We have a nice curve shape and fully exposed midsole with this Fresh Foam X. So it's really soft here in the heel, right? And coming here into the forefoot, right, with this shape, we have a nice rocking motion as well. So when you're doing heel dominant strides, just because of the shape, it feels really smooth. It feels really nice here in the heel as well. And look at this. So much forefoot flex, and it just stays like this, you know what I mean? It doesn't have that much of a springiness to it, you know, so it just feels more flexible, and it's not bad or anything. It all depends on what your preference is. Some people like a very smooth shoe, just like in like the 808 threes, the Kobe's, you know, but also some people want like a springier feel with like the Wild 10 lows, the GT Cut 3s. So this one is more just smooth, which of course I do like. And also we do have a midfoot chain plate, which is good for torsional support. It doesn't really bend at all in the midfoot, so there is that. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup is really comfortable, right? I'll give it that. So they're using Fresh Foam X. It says Fresh Foam X here. It's also dual density, right? So around the perimeter of the actual midsole, this foam is pretty much like the carrier is a little bit stiffer, and then the core is softer, right? But also it doesn't really feel that stiff, honestly. You know what I mean? Like there's still a good amount of compression here in the heel. It's soft. Impact protection is off the charts, right? So if you're looking for a shoe that has really good impact protection and you want your feet to kind of feel like you're kind of on a cloud, then this is the shoe to get, right? But if you're a guard and you want something a little bit more responsive and also lower to the ground, it's not the best, you know what I mean? Like court feel isn't the greatest, and I guess that does make sense. They are advertising this as more of like a well cushioned setup. But yeah, if you're a guard that wants a low to the ground feel that also feels more on the responsive side of things, this isn't the best option, right? It also felt a little laterally unstable to me because it is pretty dang soft, you know what I mean? Because of that, and also the softer cushioning setup, I didn't feel as quick playing in the shoe, so that kind of sucks. But you know, step-in comfort is really nice in this shoe, right? The insole is okay. It's just a pretty much a regular Ortholite insole, but underneath that we have a pretty stiff strobel board, but I did break it in, you know. Playing in it, it did break in kind of nicely. Of course, it's not as nice as like a soft mesh strobel board, but I definitely felt the softer Fresh Foam X underneath my foot. So underfoot cushioning is really nice, and I could probably feel it underneath my foot because it is a thicker slab, you know what I mean? So for me, it's not my favorite because, you know, I am a guard and I like a lower to the ground setup. But again, if you're looking for a comfortable setup with good impact protection, with a good amount of compression and nice step-in comfort and underfoot cushion, this is a great setup. So there's that. Moving on to the uppers, so they're using like kind of old school materials, right? So here in the middle of the toe box, it feels like a canvas material, right? But around the toe box, we have this like pretty fuzzy suede, which does feel pretty dang nice, especially for 130 bucks. You know, it's pretty nice. And then also on the lateral side, it's kind of like that canvas material as well with some embroidery, right? And then for the tongue, we have very minimal padding. It's like this crappy kind of like synthetic suede feeling material, right? It's also an independent tongue, which is kind of weird because most modern shoes do have half booty construction tongues, but you know, the tongue does stay in place. I don't really have any issues with that, but it's a very minimal feeling tongue, you know? Also here in the ankle area, we do have like an average amount of padding. It does feel kind of like cozy, but not super well padded. So it's just weird, you know what I mean? It does feel kind of like thicker and stiffer here in the toe box, you know what I mean? It's not super soft. It does feel more sturdy. I feel like they want to prioritize a little bit more support, especially in the toe box, but it does feel pretty nice and conforms to your foot kind of well, somewhat well, especially once you break it in and once you start sweating and stuff. It's not a huge deal, but it doesn't feel super minimal or anything, right? But you know, the overall quality does feel pretty dang nice. So honestly, I didn't really mind it all too much, right? I just wish it had a little bit more padding here in the tongue. Now moving on to the fit, I went up half a size and this shoe fits me pretty dang well, although there is a little bit of length. But here in the toe box, it's a snug fit. You know, it's a pretty dang snug fit. I can't really curl my toes up that much. I can curl it up a little bit, but not a lot, you know? And also this canvas material doesn't really like get roomier. It doesn't really stretch out that much. And width-wise, I would say it is slightly narrow. It is kind of snug width-wise for me. So overall, going up half a size is still a pretty nice snug fit for me. I didn't really mind the extra length either that much. So it was good for me going up half a size, right? So I feel like most people, you should be fine going up half a size. But if you do want a really snug fit, you should be fine going true to size. And if you have a wide foot, probably go up a full size, right? And also here in the midfoot, it does stay pretty normal. It doesn't feel super narrow or anything. It's not choking my foot out here in the midfoot either. So there's that. Moving on to the support and lockdown, it was pretty good for me, right? So for lateral containment, I had pretty much zero issues. There's not a whole lot of lateral counters, but because of the extra layers of material, especially here in the forefoot with this fuzzy suede, I felt good to go. My foot wasn't really coming out of the footbed that much. And then here in the heel, we have the foam coming up, acting as a sidewall. There's not a crazy prominent like internal TPU heel counter kind of, right? It does bend in pretty easily, but I was good to go. My foot was not coming out of the footbed. Lateral stability overall was not that good, however, right? It is kind of wide here in the forefoot, but like I said, here in the heel, there is a good amount of compression. It is soft and you are kind of high up off the ground, right? So I did feel like it wasn't terrible. Like I wasn't rolling my ankle, but it didn't feel super laterally stable for me when I was playing in it. So that kind of sucked. I think also the traction not being amazing, especially on dust, didn't make it that much better, right? And also, I've experienced a little bit of heel slippage actually, right? It wasn't slipping out, but it didn't feel super locked down either. You know what I mean? No matter how tight I kind of laced up the shoe. So overall, support and lockdown wasn't the best, especially lockdown, right? So there's that. Moving on to the overall weight. So this shoe isn't super light, but also isn't super heavy. I feel like it's like around average, right? So yeah, 13.1 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 12.75 ounces. That's a pretty big weight difference. But anyways, let's average it around to what, 12.9 ounces. So that's pretty much 13 ounces, which is a little bit heavier than average. You know, the average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So this shoe does feel like pretty average weight. It doesn't feel super bulky, however, but it does feel a little bit thicker for the material here in the toe box, which is kind of weird. You know, most companies, they make it pretty thin here in the toe box and they make it a little bit more hefty, a little bit more cozy here in the back of the shoe, but they kind of did the opposite here in the Fresh Foam BBV2, especially with the tongue with zero padding. But yeah, this shoe also isn't super responsive. You know, the cushion is really soft, like I said, and also it felt laterally unstable a little bit, and the traction especially kind of like on a dusty court, and also going forward did slide around a little bit. So I didn't feel super quick when I was playing in these, which kind of sucks, you know. And now moving on to the ventilation, no, not very good. You know what I mean? I guess there are ventilation holes in the tongue a little bit. Like here on top we do have it, but here like in the bottom of the tongue we do have an underlay material. But also through like any of this material, there's pretty much zero airflow. So there's not it's not super cool. You know what I mean? It's not a super cool shoe. It's actually kind of hot. So there is that. Moving on to the aesthetics. That's one thing I like about this shoe. You know what I mean? It looks great, especially in this colorway. It's a shoe that I really think people can rock off court, and people wouldn't really know that it's a hoop shoe. You know what I mean? There's hoop shoes where you're like, that's a hoop shoe. You know what I mean? Like it kind of looks weird if you want to wear it casual. I mean, of course you can do whatever you want, but it just doesn't look like a casual shoe, you know? But with this, it definitely does look like a casual shoe, you know? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, this shoe is it's a little bit of a bummer, you know what I mean? Especially with the traction, you know, it just slide around a little bit. The cushion is really comfortable, but a little laterally unstable, and of course it's not my cup of tea. I'm not saying the cushioning setup is bad, it's actually really comfortable and nice, but not my cup of tea because I want a lower to the ground setup, you know? And also like the support and lockdown wasn't the greatest. I also didn't really feel super quick when I was playing this shoe, right? So yeah, okay, so if you're a guard, I don't think this is a great shoe. I definitely feel like there are better options out there, but if you are a bigger dude or you want a shoe that has really nice and comfortable cushion, and you're more of like a slower player and you don't really need a super responsive shoe, I feel like this is a great option, right? But for me, I didn't really like it all too much. So anyways, that about concludes my performance review of the New Balance Fresh Foam BBV2. Again, if you guys don't want to cop, I try to leave in the link in the description box. But anyways, that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.